Hello, my name is Justin Helfman. I'm a student in ED LD 5311, and this is my reflection to my first observation video. I have just finished my observation of a classroom teacher through the eyes of an administrator, making sure to note my colleagues' attention to different learning styles, different instructional strategies, and focusing on were the students actively engaged in the classroom or not. During this reflection, Miss Finney relied on the use of modeling for her instructional strategy, using hands-on props and a smartboard, as well as many classroom posters and other props to work through multi-steps problems. She did a very good job modeling each step for the students before asking them to complete on their own. Miss Finney would model a step and then give the students time to reflect before asking them to move on with their groups and complete that step on their own. Once ample time was allowed to complete the task, Ms. Finney would move on to the next step of the assignment. Ms. Finney also used some basic props for the students to understand slope and run. Her props would allow the students to move by hand to make larger for the number of slope or run. This showed the students how the two things affected each other and how they were related. This was a great hands-on tool for learners. I observed students really understanding the concept when they're able to manipulate with their hands and understand the principles and the theories that she was trying to teach. During this lesson, Ms. Finney used gradual release of responsibility to help students understand how to solve multiple step problems. She would demonstrate a step and then have the students in a group solve the similar step for a different problem. Then progress with students working in a group before finally completing the task on their own. I observed students who were actively engaged in the lesson. I feel this because students were asking appropriate questions amongst their own groups and aloud for the class. Students were focused on completing the task and were actively listening and taking notes. Many students were able to help other peers when needed. I feel this is the strongest evidence that students were actively engaged in the lesson. I feel that the lesson overall went well. Students were engaged in the topic, and her use of props and humor kept the mood light. Students were very aware of the classroom expectations and the rules and seemed to have no trouble following them. She did a great job setting the stage for the lesson before the class started, making sure to review the classroom rules and expectations. Ms. Finney has done a great job creating a safe learning environment for all students where they feel safe to ask questions and learn without judgment. Ms. Finney did a great job executing her purpose statement for the lesson, which was to learn how to apply properties of exponents to simplify expression with exponents. She referred back to this numerous times throughout the lesson, making sure students knew what was expected of them, what their learning objective was for the day, and how this was to apply for future tasks and future events, and not only that, but applying it to their future learning. When students, when looking at things I would change, I feel the class did get off topic at times, and they had a very slow start. Students were greeting at the door. This was part of capturing good hearts that Miss Finney uses to help her class. But when students got to class, it took a few minutes to begin their rocking review. This was how she begins each class, she stated. I observed it took about 8 minutes for the class to get started. As the classroom teacher or an administrator, 8 minutes wasted every day equates to about 23 days of the school year wasted. This is far too much time wasted getting students ready to begin the lesson. I was surprised to see how well students would transition from group work back to their lead instruction. Upon conversations with Miss Finney, she stated that it took her about a month at the beginning of the school year to teach students to be able to transition back and forth quickly from group time back to teacher-led instruction. She felt it is worth it when they get it though. She was able to achieve this through consistent modeling of her expectations and constant work, as she put it. This experience has given me a chance to step into another classroom and see what it's like to evaluate another teacher. This is something that I feel I need to spend more time on. I found it difficult at times to evaluate a co-teacher whom is also a friend of mine and be able to look at that classroom objectively for areas to improve. I tend to be a very optimistic person and have the tendency to look towards the positives in others. While this is not always a bad thing, it is something that I need to be aware of moving forward.